Hello, Lee. Good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. We will be talking about what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer spoke about last night in his embargoed press conference about signings. There was a little bit about Pogba as well, and the way the club is being run by the Glazers. An interesting article in The Athletic this morning. But of course, this is a sombre morning for football and a sombre morning for Manchester United. 63 years ago, at just after 3 o'clock today, the Munich tragedy happened and football lost something it would never get back. And Manchester United, of course, felt that more keenly than anybody else, because this is our football club and this was our football team. I saw somebody saying today, I wonder what if the Busby Babes were playing now in the modern media world, how would they be treated? And I don't know whether there was a hint there that they would be treated badly by social media, because social media is a bad thing. And I think, again, this just feeds into, I didn't see the Busby Babes play, and it's fantastic to see Busby Babes and Flowers of Manchester in the live comments, because I know that it means a lot to everybody. But I didn't watch them play, but I've read countless books. I've had countless stories from my granddad, who's no longer with us, and there is I just think sometimes people say things to be a bit sensationalist. Oh, imagine if they played in the modern day, the criticism they might get off social media or the press. I think this totally underestimates what I've always been told about this team, is that they're not defined by the tragedy. The tragedy is a tragedy. This team was a very special team. It had won league titles. It was playing in Europe. It had world-class players in it. And the tragedy is that team was taken too soon. Not that it was potential. It did have a lot of potential, but it had already achieved, and it was already ridiculously exciting. My granddad was from Nottingham, and obviously growing up in the 50s, he became aware of this Manchester United side that Sir Matt Busby was putting together. And, this wasn't a world of internet. This wasn't really a world of TV. And yet, fans from all around the country fell in love with this young team that Sir Matt Busby had brought in from all around the country. Duncan Edwards had come in from Dudley. Sir Bobby Charlton had come down from the northeast. He'd signed Tommy Taylor from Barnsley. This side was built and exciting like no other team had been built before. The youth, adding quality players to that. So it was a fantastic side, and the tragedy cut it short way before it reached its peak. But it was a fantastic side, and other people died that day as well. But look, just after 3 o'clock today, I'm sure all Manchester United fans will take that minute or two to reflect. I don't know what's going on outside Old Trafford today. Obviously, it's very difficult in a pandemic, but we won't forget. We'll never forget. And a pandemic or whatever is not going to make Manchester United fans ever forget that day, that team, and the people who died, because that's who we are. That's what this football club is. It's built on the foundations that team built for us, and we've built on top of that, and we'll never ever forget the core of what this football club is all about. So February the 6th, Manchester United, the Busby Babes, the Flowers of Manchester, and the Munich tragedy will be there for football. But football in general, but for Manchester United, this is who we are, and this is why we will never forget, because they are. We stand on the shoulders of giants, basically. That's what we do. Right, okay, let's move on with the show, because that's what happens. You do. Life carries on, and Manchester United have got a game tonight, and hopefully that game against Everton tonight, which is a must-win, we can get a result that would make those boys proud and reflect what this football club's all about, because I think it's a real big opportunity against Manchester United for Manchester United against Everton tonight. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, this is always very interesting. I think let's get into the morning show, because there's quite a lot to talk about. Very interesting article in The Athletic about the Glazers. We'll be talking about that in a moment. Also talking about a bit about Amad Diallo, a bit about Paul Pogba. But I want to start off with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The embargoed press conference came out at 10:30 last night. And I think speculation about transfers is fine, and sometimes you get good information and sometimes you don't. But when it's coming from the mouth of the manager, and I said this a few times, that when it comes from the mouth of the manager, you can interpret that in a very, very clear way. So Ollie spoke about transfers and the plans for the summer. A bit of a transfer warning, but also a clear statement again that he wants signings. And for anybody who thought that January was fine not to buy players, remember Solskjaer a couple of times said it's unlikely we'll get anybody, but if the right target comes up, who knows? And this is just a reflection of where Solskjaer is. He wants players. I can't make this any more clear that Solskjaer clearly wants players, because if you don't want players, you say, I'm really happy with my squad, I don't need to talk about transfers now. And we've heard countless managers do that many times, but Solskjaer never says that. What he did say is that we've done good business in the last few windows, and it's about the odd contribution that's still needed, not wholesale changes. So that's basically saying he needs one or two pieces to complete the puzzle, which we all know what those pieces are. It's a centre-back, it's a CDM, and it's an attacker. But he is right. I think there's not many football clubs that are in a position where they are one or two pieces away. I think if you went and spoke to David Moyes at West Ham, or Steve Bruce at Newcastle, or Graham Potter at Brighton, and you said, how many pieces are you away? And it's like, well, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to get top four? Because in which case I need a whole new team. If you want me to stay up, I probably need 3 or 4. Every club doesn't have the luxury of being 1 or 2 signings away from a complete squad, and that tends to be reserved for the top 3 or 4 sides. So United, that they are that close is really good, and Solskjaer has certainly spoken about, we do need to be looking at players. He said we are looking at options right now, but what the warning was that we are living in a pandemic world, and who knows what impact that's going to have in the summer. It's already had an impact on the transfer market, and it might have an impact in the summer. So look, it's encouraging what Solskjaer's saying, that we are making plans for the summer right now. We're looking at targets right now, but obviously who knows what's going to happen with this pandemic. What I would say is that if Manchester United want to be competitive, then we've got to make signings in the summer, because Chelsea will, Manchester City will, maybe Liverpool will, and we as fans cannot sit there and just say, well, you know what, it's absolutely fine. We've had a pandemic. We're not a club that can afford to do that sort of thing, so it's absolutely fine. That's not the case at Manchester United. So we must be making signings in the summer. We can't just keep resting on these laurels, which feeds in lovely into an article in The Athletic that Laurie Whitwell has put out in the last sort of 24 hours about the Glazers. Now, the big issue here is I want to bring something else in, and I read this on United District's Twitter account. They were talking, there's a quote here from Anderlecht's ex-sporting director. Now, bear with me on this, it's not about a signing, but the Anderlecht's ex-sporting director, whose name is Verschuren, said, and is quoted as saying, that 2 years ago, I was accompanied by Ed Woodward, who was going through a sporting slump at the time. He showed me tweets from supporters. Look, Michael, how cruel the fans can be. Tears were in his eyes. Now, I don't know what your thought is on that, but basically, if this is true, that Ed Woodward is obviously aware of the impact of the fans, and saying how cruel the fans can be 2 years ago. Verschuren said, I messaged Woodward a few days ago to congratulate him on Man United being second in the league. He texted me back saying, you know how tough the journey was. I don't know whether Ed Woodward is in touch. I don't know whether to feel sympathy for Ed Woodward, but the reality is, I think it worries me, if there's any truth in that Ed Woodward feels hard done by, or Ed Woodward feels that, look how cruel the fans can be. 2 years ago, that apparently was. It was a year ago that people wrongly went to his house and made it personal. That's disgusting. That's vile. That never should happen. But the criticism aimed at Ed Woodward and the board 2 years ago, a year ago, is right. It's right. It's not cruel. I think if somebody takes it beyond criticism and starts being abusive about his family and everything like that, that's cruel. And maybe that's what he's talking about. But criticism of where we are is absolutely justified, because 2 years ago, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came into the job, and if Ed Woodward was getting criticism then and the board were getting criticism then, it wasn't really to do with that moment. It's the last 7 years, Ed. Like, we're Manchester United fans, and the way this club has been run for the last 7 years is appalling. Absolutely appalling. And as chief executive of the club, it's no point showing people text messages saying, look how cruel people can be. Trust me, I've seen how cruel people can be on social media. So you've just got, social media in many ways isn't real, Ed. But the reality is, what has been real is that this football club, under your guide, has massively underachieved for the last 7 years. And the accountability in the book stops with you. If you're the chief executive of Cousins or bloody DFS or McDonald's and you fail, you will lose your job. And many people have looked at the chief executive of Manchester United over the last 7 years and wondered how he's in a job. The money we've wasted, the poor signings, the new contracts, Alexis Sanchez, 4 different managers, and yet the board have remained intact. So I think that criticism of where we are, where we've been over the last 7 years is 100% justified. However, personal attacks on his house and him and everything like that is never right. It's never right. And I've spoken about this on That's Football. I think some people take things too far. I've seen it with other clubs where people are shouting out hate and abuse about individual players, and it's wrong. It absolutely is wrong. But let's not pretend that Manchester United, where they are now, is because of the board in very little way. I mean, they've contributed, but I think Solskjaer this season, as I've said countless times, has achieved what he's achieved with his arms tied behind his back. The board have helped a little bit. They could have helped a lot more. So to send a message back, if this has actually happened, and say, you know how tough the journey has been, thank you. I don't think Manchester United's board has contributed that much to where we are today. I think you can say, well, they helped with Bruno, they helped with Maguire, but so much of this is down to man management. So much of this season is about, galvanising players to back the manager and the coaches, because I don't think many people predicted we would be in second place based on the squad that was provided to Solskjaer at the start of the season. So now is not the time for Ed Woodward and the board to start going, oh, we've done a great job. It's been a real challenge getting here. I think you haven't done a great job yet. I think your contribution to the success of Manchester United, we're still waiting for. I think Solskjaer has got us where we are. I think the players have got us where we are. And as Solskjaer said in the press conference yesterday, we do need one or two more players to get to that final step. Well, this is where your job starts. I don't think the board have contributed anywhere near enough to the success that could be achieved under this regime or past regimes. So, you know what? You might think criticism is unfair, but maybe that's because you're out of touch. I mean, I've said it so many times. Why won't Ed Woodward... Well, I know why, but if Ed Woodward sat down with me or Flex or something like that, the conversation would be grown up, mature, but it would be very much about, how out of touch I believe Manchester United Football Club and their board are with fans. You can talk to Manchester United Supporter Trust. You can talk to fan groups like the Red Army, who are fantastic. You can talk to certain journalists who are Manchester United fans who are in every press conference, and that's absolutely fantastic. But if you're not talking to everybody, then you're not in touch with everybody, are you? And this football club is out of touch. It's out of touch in relation to what it thinks it does. I've heard this a few times, that they think they should be getting more credit than they actually get. Well, the reason you're not getting credit is because it's very clear. I mean, just take this season, for example. It's very clear. You go into this season, you don't give the manager, the centre-back and the right winger that he desperately needed. We start the season badly. There's rumours that he's going to get the sack. He ridiculously, brilliantly turns it around on an amazing run, takes us to second place, and it's like, yeah, this is down to us. It's very clearly not. It might be down to you in a little way, but it's down to the manager in a massive way. And have you supported that manager? Well, I and many other people don't think there is enough support. And feeding into that, this feeds in perfectly to what this article in The Athletic has said. And these are not my workings out. This is from The Athletic. £270 million the Glazers paid out of their own pocket to buy Manchester United. And obviously the rest was done in debt. Since that £270 million was spent, they've taken £200 million out in dividends. So basically, they've nearly taken the money out, what they've put into the club. They've also saddled the club over the time they've been in charge with £1.5 billion in debt, interest payments and outgoings. So £1.5 billion has gone out of this club because of this Glazers purchase. £200 million's gone out to their own pocket when they bought us on debt. So, you know what? When Manchester United fans sit there and say the board don't back the manager, and rival fans say, wow, they have bought you Harry Maguire, this, that and the other, that's because they don't support the club. That's because they probably don't dig enough deep on their club. The reality is, money has been spent by this club, and I don't think any United fan would deny that. The point is, you look at Chelsea, you look at Manchester City, they've got owners who will spend to get their manager what they want so that they can be the best club in the world, the best they can be. Manchester United's owners, they don't do that. They will spend money, but they want a lot of money for themselves, because this is a business, baby. This is a business. This is a cash cow. This is about buying a club on debt and taking as much money out of it as you can, leveraging other things to finance yourselves. That is not what any Manchester United fan ever wanted. And it's not going to turn into a big Glazers out thing, because today is a very important day in our history, and it's not for that. I can talk about this calmly, and I can say without... in my opinion, I don't think it's even an opinion. I think it's very well known. You talk about the figures we're talking about there, and you talk about Ed Woodward potentially feeling a little bit hard done by. Ed Woodward is probably not really that responsible. He's not an owner of the football club. The Glazers are. He's their puppet. He's their chief executive, whatever. But Ed Woodward should be intelligent enough to look at the situation, see the disappointment and frustration of fans, see the people above him who aren't fans, who bought the club on debt to make money, and understand that, look, I work for them, but I can't ever sit here and say we're doing a great job when you look at what's happening at Chelsea and Man City and other clubs around Europe who are run with the sole purpose of being the best team in the world. And that means investing in your manager on a consistent basis. Not, here's 50 million when you need 150 million, but you better thank me for it. And that's what happens. We do spend money, but we don't spend the money we should do comparable to other clubs to get to where we need to be. We should already have the centre back and the right winger in. We should have had Bruno in at least 6 months before we did it. But look, the Glazers are not the owners I would ideally want at Manchester United, and I think everybody else reflects that, because they are about making money. And the story of what they've done to this club is clear. Masses and masses of debt and masses of money in their own pocket and very little gone in. If you look at the story of Manchester United, the Glazers have invested very little money into this club. I mean, it's based on those figures, they might have invested less than £100 million of their own money into this club now, and God knows what they've had out of it in various different routes. Dividends are one way you can leverage money out of the club. There's plenty of others, debt, everything. Thank you for the super chat, Samuel Owen, and you should have seen us coming, fastest team in the league. Just see us running, all the lads and lasses with smiles upon their faces, walking down the Warwick Road to see Matt Busby's aces, says Luke82. Thank you, lovely little message there. Still 3 things to talk about. Just also in that article from Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic, the Glazers have got no intention of selling the club. There were potentially discussions with the Saudis, but they only wanted to sell 20% of the club. And this is the problem. If you've got owners who just want the best for Manchester United Football Club, then if they've failed and there's an owner that can do a better job than them, they will sell that football club. And that's happened many times. Not necessarily at Manchester United, but you've seen it before. Owner of a club sells the club because he's taken as far as he can. He loves the club, so he gives it to rich owners. Manchester United's owners are not going to sell this club because somebody else will come in and do a better job than them. They're going to keep this job because it was bought as a business anyway. And the business plan of Manchester United over the next 5, 10, 20 years is that it's going to increase in value, it's going to increase in revenue. And why would you sell that if you're a business person? It's not about what's going to happen on the pitch. That's a nice to have for the Glazers. They want to be top 4 every year, definitely. And if they can win Premier League titles, great. But what they're genuinely interested in as business people is making money year after year after year. So all these people that think the Glazers will sell because there's a rich owner that's going to come in and make us successful, they don't care about that. They're not going to care about that. And the reason they're not going to care about that, because that's not why they bought the club in the first place. They bought the club in the first place because they saw a massive business opportunity, which in fairness, if it wasn't Man United, I'd look at it and go, fair play. What a shrewd business move that was. Because it's one of the, for making money, it's one of the most shrewd business moves ever in sporting history. But as fans of the club, we're in trouble because and I always hope the Glazers will change. I always hope that they actually will get in their head that they want Man United to be the best club in the world and put the money into it that's required, because it's not just buying players, it's the infrastructure. The stadium needs work. There's lots of things at Old Trafford that is decaying, but yeah, they're not going to sell the club because a rich owner is going to make us successful when they can know over the next 10 years that they're going to keep taking more and more money, making more and more money. Can you give Mark Nolan a shout out on his birthday, says Charlie Nolan. Nolan, happy birthday to Mark Nolan. I hope you have a good day. If we get Grealish and Pogba leaves, how does our attack line up? I don't see Grealish playing as a 6 or pushing Bruno Rashford out of their roles, says James Maynard. Well, Jack Grealish can play off the wing. So, I think Jack Grealish would give Manchester United a lot more options. Joseph Tyrrell, thanks for the super chat there. I mean, just talking about Pogba on that previous point as well, I saw something this morning, I think it might have been James Jackson, who's a journalist, talking about Solskjaer saying that there's an opportunity for Paul Pogba to stay at the club. To me, this is just a mishmash of stories that I think we're just going to have to keep readdressing this every few days by the sounds of it. Paul Pogba's not going to sign a new contract right now. He's not going to do it. And he's also not going to leave right now. This story is not going to be finished until June. You can write the book how you like, but the final few pages will not be written until June unless something amazing happens. Because Paul Pogba unless Mino Raiola gets told by Juventus, PSG, Real Madrid, and any other club that Pogba might fancy going to, unless they all tell him there's absolutely no way we're going to be able to buy him, we can't do it, then he won't sign a new he's not going to sign. He might sign a new contract with United then, but that's not going to happen, is it? Because a lot of clubs will be saying, we are interested, Mino, but we've got to try and shift a few players first, so hold on. And Pogba at this moment in time doesn't need to make a decision either. So we're going to have, for the next few... And to be honest with you, it slightly frustrates me because we are focusing on something very away from transfers and away from Paul Pogba. We're focusing on winning. In fact, make sure you download the Flick app. It's free. It's like a Man United Stand sort of chat app. There's 24-hour chat groups and transfer chat on there. But I've put a poll on there today. Should Paul Pogba start, yes or no? So if you get over to the app, you can download it for free on Apple and Android and cast your votes on there. I'll give you the results before the end of the show. And also you can just be chatting away when we're not live, etc. Really good app, but and it's also free, of course. But that's the thing for me about Pogba at the moment. It's about what he's going to do on the pitch between now and the end of the season. So all this talk of transfers, it doesn't serve a purpose, does it? It doesn't serve a purpose. But I think Pogba's such a superstar within our team that, you know, I think every now and again we're just going to get someone writing about it. Pogba could stay. Ollie thinks Pogba could stay. Pogba hints that he's going to stay. Pogba's off to Madrid. You know, Raiola hints that Pogba's off to Madrid. On international duty, Pogba doesn't commit about staying to Man United. And we're going to get this for the next few weeks. And it's a shame, really, because the most important thing is that no decision is going to be made till the season's over, when he's got a year left on his contract and he knows what his options are. And nobody is going to, but it's not going to stop. And he's not going to sign a new contract. You know what it's like? It's like waking up on a Saturday morning and you know you're going to have a takeaway tonight, but you've got to make your decision this morning, and you've just had you've had a rough night on the beer and you're not actually feeling that hungry. You're feeling a bit sick, and someone's saying get your order in tonight. It's like, well, no, I'll wait till tonight because I'll be hungry then. I'll be over this hangover, and I might have fish and chips. I might have a Chinese takeaway. I might have an Indian takeaway. Might have Thai. Might have pizza. You know, I might just have a McDonald's, and that's basically what Paul Pogba's situation is going to be like. Why should he make a decision now when in June he might feel completely different and he might have a lot more options on the table? Hi Mark, maybe a bit naive, but who were the previous owners of the club and why did they sell? Eric Boschen, I don't think it's naive, Eric. It was, I'll probably get his first name wrong, Michael Edwards, wasn't it? Martin Edwards. And they'd owned the club for years and years. I think it was passed down through them. But the interesting thing is that ownership of a football club never really used to be that much of a thing. The sale of Manchester United, there was a lot of people involved in that, and there's far wiser heads than me on this process, and there's far more. There's far more to that story. Some people even talk about the racehorsing incident with Sir Alex Ferguson, and I think it was the Magners, wasn't it? They were looking at buying in the club and fell out with Sir Alex, so they sold their shares, and the Glazers came in, and there's a whole political story about how the Glazers ended up owning Manchester United and how it happened and why it was allowed to happen, and people should have stopped it. But money talks, doesn't it? Money talks, and you know, people should have seen it coming, definitely. But I mean, I remember this. I mean, I don't know, you'd have to be quite an old Man United fan to remember this. And I was very young, but the reason I remember it is because it was just weird. I think it was the start of the 89 season. So 88, 89 it might have been. And I think it was 88, 89. And we beat Arsenal first game of the season 4-1 at Old Trafford. And we were going to sell the club to someone called Michael Knighton, who ended up owning Carlisle and came out onto the Old Trafford pitch to cheers about how he was going to reinvent the club and invest in the club. He was even doing kick-ups on the pitch in front of a packed-out Old Trafford on the opening day of the season in shorts and a jumper, doing keepy-ups. And it turned out, I mean, again, I was very young and I've never really reflected on it, but I don't think he actually had the money, and yet he was out on the pitch being cheered. It was a crazy time. So the owners of United were always open to selling it, obviously. And you know what if you're selling something, it's like selling a house, isn't it? Do you do Do you care who buys it if you're making your money? The way Germany runs football is much more healthy and sustainable. The Premier League is like the stock market where fans take the brunt of the hit, whereas the owners walk off unharmed, says Red Baron. Yep. Well, the fans are always going to suffer, aren't you? Because you're in the hands of the owners. Like, we can say, people say we're in a title race. We can't control that. We're not, fans aren't even allowed in the ground to have an impact on that. It's Solskjaer has to get on with what he's got, and we just support the club. But the owners dictate really what happens. It's sad, but American business team owners are usually about generational wealth. That name may be behind our club for decades. Good morning, United Stand community. Let's go United, says Marveloso 216. Well, actually, just, maybe on a positive note, in that same article, it says that Joel Glazer speaks to Ed Woodward every day, sometimes more than once a day, and some of the decisions that are made by Joel are ridiculously minute. You wouldn't believe it. So, maybe he's deciding who gets a parking pass or something like that. But at least it shows an interest in what's going on at the club. But it just depends what that interest from Joel Glazer is. Is it just always making phone calls to find out how much money's being made, or is it phone calls about what's that youth player doing, what about that signing? I mean, there was that rumour, wasn't there, that they said no to Sancho in the summer, but they were adamant that we kept Martial. So look, I don't know, their football knowledge is not going to be the same as you. They're just it's just generational wealth that their dad bought the football club and now they're owners of the football club. They're just, it's like the royal family, really, isn't it? You're born into that wealth. I'm not saying that they're bad people or not intelligent people, but their football knowledge of Manchester United won't be any, but will be far worse than yours, just because they own the club. So, on a positive, anyway, Amad Diallo. A few people saying, do you think Amad Diallo could play tonight, with it being the anniversary of the Munich tragedy? I actually think last night was a fitting tribute in many ways from the under-23s. The night before, on the eve of the Munich tragedy, what a performance that was. 4-2 down against top of the league, and they win it 6-4. I tell you what, that team's got goals in it, and it's got talent in it. And Shortire, Diallo, Hugo got a goal as well. Hannibal was really good, but loads of the lads were good. I mean, Harvey Neville, like his uncle, whipping in a lovely cross. For a goal for, I think it was Hugo got that one. So look, the youth coming through is there, and I'm sure they don't need to play tonight against Everton, and I don't think they will play tonight because they played last night. But Amad Diallo's too good for that level. There's other players that are very good for that level as well, but Amad Diallo's played in the Champions League. He's played in Serie A for Atalanta. This is just about getting your fitness levels up. But what I like about Diallo, and it is only potential because he's not kicked a ball for the first team yet, is he got a hat-trick of assists last night, and what he's looking to do off that wing on that right-hand side, what he's looking to do is create. And you can't teach that, because that's what wingers do. I don't think Rashford's an out-and-out winger, and I don't think Greenwood's an out-and-out winger. They are goal scorers, and that's absolutely fine. But as I've said many a time, Greenwood and Rashford, you're either going to have to change the way they play and make them think more about creation, which you don't really want to do with Mason Greenwood. And, Rashford's one of those players that you don't really want to tame either. What you need to do is Greenwood needs to develop into the striker, which I think will happen, and we need to develop a right winger who's about creation. And then you keep Rashford on the left, who's just that, flair player. And then on the right, you've got a creator. And then you've got the balance. We need a player who's a creator. And I think in Diallo, whether he's going to be a success or not, you can definitely see he is a creator. Yes, he can score a goal, but he's going to be a creator. And that's the exciting thing. Thanks for the sticker, Renate. Hope you're doing well. Guna here. Rivalry aside, must be frustrating for you if City run away with it, because this is the closest you've come in years. Thanks to Bruno, says Alexander B. No, I disagree with that. I mean, look, tonight's a must-win game against Everton, of course. If we want to be, tonight for me, it's not about being in a title race, because, I think we are technically in the title race. We're second in the league. Of course we're in a title race. But realistically, I just want to get as many points as I can, because I think if we beat Everton tonight and then we beat West Brom and Newcastle, yes, we'll be still very close to Man City. But those 9 points, with what everyone else is playing in February, I think that will just virtually give us a really firm grip on top 4, which is the first aim. And then, of course, you're just trying to stay with City and see what happens. But I don't think Man United fans are frustrated that this is the first time we've been in a title race in ages and Man City are going to run away with it. I don't think that's the mentality. I mean, unless I'm missing something here, it's certainly not the mentality I have. I don't think we as United fans are frustrated that City are so good this year. I mean, you look at the last 2 or 3 years, City and Liverpool had a lot more points now than they did. 2 years, last year and the year before, than they do now. So, we can't be frustrated about this. I think we're enjoying it. I think we'd love to win the league. It would be a dream. I think we're realistic that Man City are better prepared to win the league, especially in relation to the defence that Pep's constructed with bringing in Ruben Diaz last season. Maybe United should have bought a centre-back. But no, not frustrated. Not frustrated. I don't feel that there's any United fan out there that just feels frustrated and just like we should be winning the league, because, we are a work in progress. I think our manager's a work in progress. I think our team's a work in progress. And I think the people who are going to finish that construction are the board. And it's whether they're going to give those final bits to complete the puzzle. And we will see in the summer. If we win the league this year, it will be fantastic. But I don't feel frustrated that Man City might run away with it, because I feel that Man City at the moment are the best team in the league. And they've got some difficult games in February. Hopefully they're going to drop points, starting with Liverpool tomorrow. We've just got to win our games and see where we're at. But we're going to have to be fantastically consistent to do it. Sky wanted to buy Man United, but were not allowed by the governing body, says Tony Cox. Yeah, Murdoch Corporation wanted to buy Sky. I mean, look, if Sky had got hold of Manchester United, would it have been morally right? They didn't want a situation where Manchester United, who were the best team in the country anyway, suddenly became, super rich as well. So they stopped it. The ironic thing is that other clubs have been afforded that opportunity now, with Manchester City and Chelsea as well. So, there are clubs. I mean, we've just spoken about one. Man City, they've got all the money they want to spend. A massive advantage. Fair play to them on that one. But United were deprived that opportunity with Sky because it was seen as a monopoly. I think that might have been partly to do with the Premier League TV deal or something. But things could have been very different. Hi Mark, bought a United Stand t-shirt. Can't wait, says Zach Games. Yeah, if you want to get your t-shirts, of course they're under the screen, aren't they? Lots and lots of those. It's starting to warm up a little bit now, but things should have been very different. And the thing is, certain people who had the power and best interests of this football club in their hands should have seen this coming, and they didn't. They took the money and run. And that's what happened. The Glazers were able to buy up a lot of people to buy this football club. There was a lot of people with a lot of shares, and they took the money for various different reasons. And there's a whole story about that. And I'm sure there's books about it as well if you're interested. Hi Mark, but today is not about that. Today, if there's any books or anything you want to be reading today, or any articles you want to be reading today, it should all be about Busby Babes and what happened. I'd read about before. I think that every year we obviously are, brought down to this level of sadness and regret and I suppose disbelief. Really, every year it comes round February the 6th, and you read everything about it and you remember everything about it, and it's just such a sad day. And I've said it so many times, and there's videos on this channel, and my granddad worshipped Duncan Edwards, and he didn't die in the tragedy, but he died a couple of weeks later from his injuries. And what he could have been, he could have been in the same category as a Beckenbauer or certainly, Bobby Charlton said Duncan Edwards was better than him, and look at how revered Bobby Charlton is. So we lost so much that day, but what I did 3 years ago is I spent the day reading about the team before that. I read about the seasons before that. I read about match reports before that. And because my granddad always used to say to me, the thing that used to frustrate him is that the team, there was this perception that the team was remembered because of the tragedy, and that doesn't do the team justice, because it's a sad tragedy, and any team that dies in that way should be remembered because of, it's sad what happened. And it was absolutely sad, and it destroyed a lot of United fans, and it still does. But my granddad always used to say, he remembers getting that news because it was just radio and newspapers in those days. But the frustrating thing for some fans is that they do almost get attached to that. Oh, that's, the Busby Babes, the tragedy, of course. But the team and the players that they were probably, and he always used to say that, I think that's the best team United have ever had, because they were absolutely amazing. And in those days, yes, players went on transfers, but that team would have stayed together for a very long time. So I would advise people to go and read about that team and those players, and You know, there's so many fantastic players in there. I mean, I always bring up Tommy Taylor, who was the striker. His strike rate for England and Manchester United was ridiculous. One of the most prolific strikers we've ever had at this football club. But there's so many players in that team that were talented and were going to be even better. So yeah, fantastic side. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Please smash a like on the video, subscribe bottom right hand corner. Remember at 3 o'clock to check out what's going on. I'm sure there'll be something on I don't know what they've got planned at Old Trafford today, because there's normally a gathering and there's normally a gathering in Munich. But I'm sure we'll all be doing something at that time, and we will never forget, says Chris14. We'll never forget. It's so important. And, you know, your kids might not really, you know, they might be young, they've got no reason to know about it, but it's so important that the next generation of Manchester United fans, you know, there's no problem if you don't really know what it's all about. But when you hear about it, there is a problem if you don't educate yourself and don't remember it then every year, because it becomes part of what your club is. And it enhances what supporting Manchester United is all about, because it takes it from being a football club that you're passionate about to, you know, as many people say, almost a religion, because this club is more than a football club to everybody who supports it. Thanks everyone for watching. Of course, we've got a big game tonight. Let's get those 3 points. I think we're all up for it tonight. Looking forward to it on the watch along. I'll catch you on there. We're live about 6:30, 8 o'clock kickoff. Have a good day. Let's get a big win today, says Ghostwriter, and take care and stay safe.